Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new Seesaw seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which, at the end of each player's turn, odd-powered units will get damaged by 1, and even-powered units will get boosted by 1. That means the decks that can carefully manipulate putting their opponents on an odd amount of power or putting their own units on an even amount of power will be most successful. However, for today's deck, we are going to be stealing our opponent's boosts. So let's go give it a look. So today we'll be using a Nilfgaard Imprisonment deck to shut down some of our opponent's best units with Lock, and then anytime they get boosted from Seesaw, we will also benefit from those boosts using Cahir. Then we'll use Letho Kingslayer to transform into a second Cahir, we can protect those Cahirs using our Defender, and we can bring back one of those Cahirs in a future round using Renew. And that's really all there is to it. Everything else is primarily for control purposes, but I'll flip through here just to show you what else we have. And that includes Yrden in case our opponent has a row that gets really big. And Geralt of Rivia in case our opponent has a specific unit that gets really big. Yennefer, again, for even more removal. Necromancy to bring back one of two cards from our graveyard that we'll talk about in just a minute. One of them being the Alba Pikeman for some more damage. Standard Bearer can be useful if our opponent has made a point of keeping all of their units on an even amount of power and getting tons of boost from that. Then this can be a point slam at the end of the round. Hunting Pack for thinning. And Megascope to create copies of some of our good bronze units. The other one being the Master of Disguise, because if our opponent already has a locked unit by the time we play Master of Disguise, it'll get boosted by 1 point from that locked unit, and it will also get boosted by 1 from Seesaw because it'll be on an even amount of power. That means it'll get boosted by 2 every turn, so it will stay on an even amount of power, giving us an automatic 2 points per turn. Then we have the Pellar, primarily to purify Cahir in case he gets locked. And, of course, more Lock and Emissary for boosting in case if one of our Cahirs gets damaged down to 1 power. It's a way to make sure that it doesn't get destroyed by Seesaw at the end of our turn. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it is overall extremely simple. Lock your opponent's best units, and then just find the right time to either deal damage with the Alba Pikeman and get boosts from the Master of Disguise, or break out your Cahirs. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going against Northern Realms here, and they'll go first. Okay, and we have Cahir, we have Letho to create a second Cahir, and then we have Oneiromancy, which we could use to either get our Defender or Renew to play Cahir in a subsequent round. Master Disguise is also really good when combined with some of our locking cards, and we can create another one using Megascope. Alba Pikeman is an alternative to create copies of. I'm thinking we may not need both these Emissaries. And here is our Defender. That's really big, because that means we can then guarantee that we get Renew with Oneiromancy, so I like this a lot. Maybe we dump you as well. Okay, Geralt for tall removal, sure. Okay, they'll start with the Temerian Drummer. That is certainly a card we could lock. Well, not if they use the stratagem on it. We could remove it with Geralt, but that might be a little over the top. It does, of course, mean lots of boosts, which is a great sign for Cahir. So let's not rush into anything just yet. Let's go Alba Pikeman, technically speaking. Short term, this is going to put that card on an even number and make sure that it gets boosted back up to a 9 at the end of their turn, but long term, it'll still help us. And our question is going to be, do we commit Cahir in round 1, knowing that we will have Renew, or do we save that? And they played a locking unit. Theoretically, they may also have Margarita, but it means they've used up some of what is probably a very limited amount of control they have in their deck. So I think perhaps we do commit our Defender and Cahir here. The reason why I hesitated a little bit is because although we can get Cahir back with Renew, we're not going to be able to get both Cahir and our Defender back because we only have 1 copy of Renew. So that's why you have to be a little bit mindful of when you choose to use Cahir. Okay, it's Donimir, so they're Defender. And they'll boost to try to get as many cards on even power as possible. Well, that just means more boost for Cahir. And at this point, it would actually be difficult for them to stop themselves from doing boosting because they have already played that Temerian Drummer, so yeah, they're just going to pass now. And that means we have plenty of time to catch them in round 1 if we're willing to just dry pass in round 2. So let's try to save Letho, and ideally save Geralt as well. We can use round 1 of Oneiromancy though, so maybe this is the time to go Oneiromancy into an Emissary, and just put one of our cards back on an even number. Of course, doesn't matter if we are loading up on the boosts on one card because we know they aren't going to remove it. And then I guess we can Megascope on an Alba Pikeman. And that should be sufficient. Okay, so we get round 2 Oneiromancy. We also draw into Yennefer, which is very good for control purposes. We get Hunting Pack, which would be good. Theoretically, we have a throwaway card here, although Hunting Pack is going to take a little bit of setup to get the thinning, so probably do still dump it. Emissary, not ideal. Megascope, also a little less than ideal, at least if we are looking to do some sort of throwaway here. We don't have a great option for that, so I think we're just looking to dry pass in that case. Because, of course, we are 2 cards down, but this way we can still get back up to even cards in round 3. Mushy Trouble does give them a little bit of resilience carryover value, so that's a good play. Oh, and theoretically, they do have some more cards to burn here, so they may be able to get some more of those Meditating Mages out and get several resilience units. They do. Very smart. Ooh, and they use the Order, which I don't think was worth it. Oh, except unless if you're going to get it back, I suppose that makes sense. Alright, so that of course means they'll win round 2, and they got some carryover, so this is not over. Fortunately for us, though, we drew into 2 of our best cards. Renew, which we were going to use Oneiromancy to get, so that means now Oneiromancy could give us basically anything. And Necromancy normally would be for Master of Disguise. We could, however, use it to get an Alba Pikeman, which is also decent value. Let's see if we can switch out the Dimeritium Shackles. Master of Disguise Part 2 is probably preferable, and maybe even get rid of Megascope. Okay, we get another Alba Pikeman. Okay, speaking of Renew, they'll use theirs for their Defender. In the range row, I think I know what that means. I think that means Visigoda of Corvo, which means a whole bunch of boosts. Now, we could Yennefer their Defender, which is tempting. I wish he didn't have Doomed, because that means he'll get destroyed as soon as we Yennefer him. He won't actually go into our deck, because if he did, then that actually would have made him a very good target for Oneiromancy to protect our Cahir. Alternatively, we could Letho Kingslayer into our own copy of Dawnamir, but then we would lose our second Cahir. I think we just Yennefer him, because I don't think they're going to have much more control. We already saw them use 1 locking unit. As I said, there's a chance they have Margarita, but that might be a chance we're willing to take. Okay, it's Redanian Knight, so that means more boosts. That's great for us. And our question here becomes, do we try to play some other engines before we break out Cahir to see maybe we can get rid of whatever other removal they happen to have, making Cahir a much safer play? That might be worth doing. So for example, if we went Master of Disguise and used the leader ability charge, which I know is a little bit overkill, but it is a way of immediately setting up this Master of Disguise. And we do still have a second leader ability charge and more lock from Moorlehem Hunter if needed. But my hope is that if they do have any removal or lock or things like that, that they'll use it on this Master of Disguise. Then we are pretty darn certain that Cahir is going to be safe. Yeah, it is Margarita, so good thing we did it. That was the plan. So now we know they don't have any more locking units, at least. Theoretically, they could have a Dimeritium Shackles, but that's gotta be extremely unlikely. So I think that means that now is our time to either play Cahir or even break out a second Master of Disguise, because theoretically, Master of Disguise would give us 2 points at the end of this turn, whereas Cahir would get boosted by 2 points from their 2 even-powered units, though they could still use Mushy Truffle, in which case Cahir would be better. Point is, maybe we still ease into things ever so slightly here with another Master of Disguise. Then we'll use Cahir. That means we really don't want them to use Mushy Truffle here, because if they don't use it this turn, that means we can probably stop them from using it altogether. Okay, so now, especially with that Temerian Drummer down there, love if this was an even-powered unit. That way you would be locked into boosting it twice per turn. But either way, let's do it now. Time for Cahir. And so, even if they still have a way to shut down Cahir, we do have this Master of Disguise that will continue to get boosted. It's a Trident Infantry, okay, so that will get double boosted and do double damage. So we probably are going to want to lock that Trident Infantry. We'll keep the Temerian Drummer unlocked, because we are actually fine about the boosts. There you see, Trident Infantry actually did hit Cahir, but since he gets boosted whenever Trident Infantry gets boosted, they basically canceled each other out. So now we use Moorlehem Hunter to lock you. And we should, of course, get our second Cahir down here as quickly as possible. As I was saying, this is actually not that big of a problem. Okay, it's Black Rayla. That's a little more concerning. The pure damage is not that nice. Okay, we did cancel out the boost by absorbing them all with Cahir. Now, we could play our second Cahir. Of course, would have been nice if we had it out at the time that they did that. Now, our chief concern is probably, do they have a Geralt of some variety? Because that could still mess with Cahir, and that's definitely more likely than them having something like Dimeritium Shackles. And tell you what, I think it is worth locking Black Rayla. It's Heatwave. Okay, on the bigger Cahir. So, yes, they did actually have some other form of removal, but we still have one Cahir remaining. So now I think what we do is we start getting out the Alba Pikeman. So we can get one here for a little bit of damage, and then we can get another one back using Necromancy. Okay, it's Reynard. That's more boosting, which is fine for us. That is, assuming they don't have a Geralt to shut down this Cahir. So now we go Necromancy, and we use that to get another Alba Pikeman. That'll give us better damage, which actually isn't all that helpful to us. We're probably looking to reset this row with our Yrden, which we'll get with this Oneiromancy, and we actually want to make sure that one of these cards gets big enough to remove with Geralt of Rivia. It's Amphibious Assault. That is a big boost. On Enna Strenger, that is not the card you want to be using against Cahir. Unless you know you can stop Cahir. We do have a target for Geralt, that being Reynard, so let's take him out here. So this being their last card, well, apparently it is not something that can shut down Cahir because they forfeit. So we'll take the win. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and we'll go first. Okay, so no Cahir, but we have both Oneiromancy and Royal Decree, which we can use to get Cahir and also get our Defender, along with Letho, which can transform into a second Cahir. We'd also like to get Renew in there, if possible. I'm thinking we probably dump the Emissary. There is our Defender, okay, so that's now easy to get Cahir and Renew as well. Not sure Standard Bearer is going to be the best against Nilfgaard, though. Well, there's Renew, okay, so now we certainly have some strong options here. The only issue being, we kind of need to play all of our big cards here in round one, because we don't have very many alternatives, and especially going first is a little bit tough. But now, since we have so many of the cards that we were going to tutor, perhaps we can use Oneiromancy for something entirely different, like, say, an Alba Pikeman, which is probably one of our better proactive plays. Alright, and you saw Sunset Wanderers in their hand there. It's Slave Hunter, so they might be going primarily with Assimilate, which would be kind of nice, because that means boost that Cahir can absorb. But because you also have damage, I think it might be worth going with Moorlehem Hunter here, locking you to shut off both that damage and the Assimilate, and then that means that we can subsequently play Master of Disguise on our next turn and turn that into a 2 boost per turn engine. Okay, they're gonna... Ooh, is this gonna be Madoc? It is. I was gonna say. Little surprised. We could Yenvo Madoc, which is actually quite tempting, assuming that they have a full-blown Madoc deck with a whole bunch of bombs in it, then taking him away would be a pretty big setback. So yeah, I think we do it. They'll just pass. They are not pleased about us taking Madoc from them, and that means that we're just going to want to play one of our weakest cards here, and fortunately we do have a locked unit, so they have a status, which means Hunting Pack does work, giving us enough points and also some thinning, which is awfully convenient. But since that's probably going to be the last card that we play, let's think about, is there anything we're going to want with Cursed Scroll? Like, we could just get Cahir directly, which might be a good idea. Even our Master of Disguise is one of our better cards, or a Geralt. So, strong options here. Let's use it. And I suppose we'll get Cahir, and then we can use our echoed copy of Oneiromancy to get one of those Geralts in a subsequent round. So there we go. We'll win round 1. And of course, we do draw into Madoc. We mostly use Yennefer on him just to take him away from our opponent. He doesn't really do us much good, because I'm not sure we have a single bomb in our deck. So let's put him back in the deck, in that case. We drew into another Master of Disguise and a Megascope, which is primarily there to create additional Masters of Disguise. So if we lock one of their units, we can get a ton of boosts out of all of these guys. So I think we probably keep this. And the question of, do we try to push here? We're a card down, yes, so we'd be at a disadvantage. And we don't really have any throwaway cards here because, as I was saying, Master of Disguise is actually quite good. So I think we do. Just pass. They'll go with a Moorlehem Hunter. That looks like just a throwaway for them, which means, of course, they'll win round 2. Okay, and then we draw into Alba Pikeman, which is the other card that we could theoretically use the Megascope on. The best cards that we have left at this point are our 2 Geralts, and we have 2 tutors to get them, and we don't need our tutors for anything else, so, you know, I think that means this could certainly work. Now, my worry here is, are they also going to use Cahir? They are not, at least not initially, because I was going to say that we are planning to use a fair bit of boosting, so that would be a bit of a problem if they did use a Cahir. Instead, let's go Master of Disguise, and let's use a leader ability charge to lock and damage Ciri. And that means, even if they purify her, she will still get destroyed at the end of their next turn. Okay, they're gonna lock our Master of Disguise. We do, of course, have another one. We can even create a copy of our existing one using Megascope, and there is the bombs we were expecting to see from them, and that's Sunset Wanderers. It's just 9 power, which is not that powerful for Sunset Wanderers. We kind of forced them to get it out earlier than they might have expected to. And of course, we could use either Geralt to take this out, so I'm not very concerned about it. So I think what we do now is let's go with our Defender, and I'm kind of expecting for them to have either Yennefer or Heatwave to get rid of this. So we'll see what they choose to do about it. They did use one of their leader ability charges, so even if they do get rid of this, they don't have 2 leader ability charges to get rid of Cahir, which is nice. That way, at least they may not have enough lock for the second Cahir. Not a huge fan of the damage from the Alba Pikeman, of course. We could counter with some damage of our own. We could also lock that Alba Pikeman with our leader ability. I think let's not rush into that just yet. Let's first, I think we do, use Cahir now. It's Moondust for Purification. I suppose we probably should have seen that one coming. Now, if they use a leader ability charge on Cahir, which they arguably should do now, but they don't, then we could have used one of our tutors to get the Pellar out to purify him. So we're actually not that worried about a lock, but then again, of course, we would prefer to use those tutors to get a Geralt. So now let's go with Letho Kingslayer before they do anything to our Cahir. That way, we can create another one. And now I deliberately put them on opposite sides of the Defender so that way, if they both get huge, then they can't use a Red Haze to get rid of one of them. But if they have a Treason, they could actually remove both of them right now. Okay, now banishing one of them is a good play, and I suppose we probably should have seen that coming, given how they are likely to have a lot more of those bombs. They are very much looking like a Madoc deck, without any major deviations from the standard setup. Unfortunately, that first Cahir that they destroyed got banished, so we can't even use Renew to get it back. This one we might be able to bring back with Renew if they were to destroy it, so I think we might play Alba Pikeman here for some damage, and then if they do, in fact, have the ability to destroy Cahir, then We'll bring him back with Renew. Oh, they're going to use Letho Kingslayer to transform into their own Cahir. Yeah, that was something we were expecting they might do. I bet that Letho was originally intended to create a second Madoc. Obviously, we stopped that from happening. I think that probably warrants an imprisonment charge to shut him down. In which case, let's go Master of Disguise to complement that. And interestingly, they choose to lock Master of Disguise. And then Yenvo Cahir? Okay, that's why. So yes, they did have a Yenvo, as expected. And actually, interestingly enough, at the moment, they don't have any highly boosted units. That Sunset Wanderers has been lowered down quite a bit. That means tutoring into our Geralts is not as interesting as it once appeared to be. So it might even be preferable to go Royal Decree into another source of lock. And short term, this doesn't do too much. I mean, obviously, we're taking away the damage from the Alba Pikeman, which is nice. But more so, it means that we can either purify this Master of Disguise or use Renew to get our other one out from our graveyard and get that turned into another engine. Or we Megascope this one, which we do need some time for that to spawn in, so now is probably the best time to do that. Okay, it's Amnesty, so they're stealing something. They're going for the Master of Disguise. It was a card we were thinking about unlocking. But now, instead, let's use Renew to get this Master of Disguise out from our graveyard. And we will also get this other one spawned in, and because they have 2 locked units, we have plenty of ways for these guys to get boosted. This is their last card at Samum, which is not enough. Now, you gotta be really careful with Seesaw here, because we would actually take 3 damage at the end of our turn from Seesaw. Yes, we'd get the double boost from Master of Disguise, but just to play it safe here, let's make sure we go Oneiromancy, and we could Yrden, yes, but maybe we Emissary, and boost you up, and that way, we guarantee the win. So there's a Nilfgaard deck for the new Seesaw seasonal event that combines control plus Cahir boosting. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.